They've literally created lasting changes in your muscle fibers that make you more responsive to training today. That muscle growth will come back in an instant. What if I told you that every rep you've ever done in the gym is still benefiting you today, even if you haven't trained in months? Researchers uncovered something fascinating about muscle memory that changes everything we thought we knew about training breaks. Hi, I'm Lockie, a final year sport and exercise science student at Oxford Brookes University, and with over 3 years of resistance training experience, I love breaking down the latest sports science research into practical advice that you can use today. So we're going to dive into groundbreaking research into muscle memory that will change how you think about training consistency. So in this video, you'll learn the newly discovered mechanisms behind muscle memory, why your past training efforts are never wasted, how to use this science to optimize your training, and practical applications for both new and experienced lifters. So let's dive into the science of muscle memory. Now, just a pre-warning, this is some very in-depth science that goes into muscle physiology. So if you're not too sure about this kind of stuff, maybe start with some more basic sports science knowledge first, and specifically physiology of muscle anatomy, and then come back to this video so you don't lose track of what we're talking about. So myonuclear domains are specific regions in the muscle fibre that are controlled by individual nuclei, so one nucleus. So muscle cells are multinucleated, meaning they have multiple nuclei within the muscle, with each nuclei being responsible for a specific domain of the cytoplasm. So the size of these domains is dynamic and adapts to conditions like muscle growth, so hypertrophy, or shrinkage, which is called atrophy, as each nucleus adjusts its transcriptional activity to meet the cellular needs. And satellite cells are muscle stem cells that reside near the muscular fibers. When muscle growth or repair is needed, they activate, proliferate, and fuse with existing muscle fibers, contributing new nuclei to expand the myonuclear domain. So remember I said about myonuclear domains being adaptive and changing to the conditions like hypertrophy. This is one. This is where you should start to understand that satellite cells are essential for hypertrophy, as new myonuclei is necessary for muscle growth, and it is these satellite cells that help to produce new myonuclei. So emerging evidence suggests that once myonuclei are integrated into the muscle fibers, they are retained even after long periods of detraining. A study from 2023 indicated that myonuclei acquired from training can persist for up to 12 months, allowing rapid muscle regrowth upon retraining within that 12-month time period. This retention forms the basis of muscle memory, where previously trained muscles adapt more quickly after reactivation. So think of muscle nuclei function as factory managers in a production line. Each nucleus oversees its domain, directing protein synthesis and cellular functions. And when additional managers, so nuclei, are hired during muscle growth, they remain even during downtime to ensure that when the factory is up and running fast again, they're prepared for the redevelopment. So let's start to move past the science and understand why this is actually important for our training. So the traditional view emphasised that muscle loss during detraining involved a loss of myonuclei, which would reset the muscle to a baseline state. And this suggested that retraining would take as much effort as initial training to regain strength and muscle size. It also held that hypertrophy strictly relied on new myonuclei, with muscle growth entirely dependent on satellite cell activation. But recent research challenges these assumptions, showing that myonuclei acquired during hypertrophy are retained for months, even after training cessation. Retained nuclei provide a foundation for rapid retraining or muscle memory, and hypertrophy can occur without constant addition of new myonuclei, as existing nuclei expand their functional capacity. So I'm going to tell you the 3 key impacts of muscle memory on training adaptations. So the first one is returning to training after break. You're going to have faster recovery because retained myonuclei allows individuals that have previously trained to gain strength and size a lot quicker than individuals that have not trained before. And statistics show that strength recovery post detraining takes only 6 to 8 weeks if you are already trained, compared to a much longer time period for individuals who have never trained before. So the next one is long-term muscle potential. So myonuclei retain memory in the form of epigenetic changes, enabling an enhanced transcriptional response during training. And these adaptations improve muscle growth potential even after long breaks, because studies show there is nuclei persistence for up to 12 months detraining, providing a lasting advantage for muscle regrowth. And the last point is training periodization. So athletes can implement planned breaks or detraining into their schedules without worrying about muscle loss thanks to retained myonuclei. Periodization that cycles through growth, maintenance and recovery phases can optimize long-term adaptations, and periods of detraining lead to modest losses of 5 to 15% of muscle mass, but you can experience a rapid regrowth of muscle after detraining, thanks to, again, myonuclei retention. So what are some practical implications of muscle memory now you understand how it works? You can quickly regain muscle and strength in up to 6 to 8 weeks thanks to retained myonuclei, so you don't have to be too worried about potentially going on holiday, not being able to train, because that muscle growth will come back in an instant, assuming you train hard and consistently again. You should still use optimal loading strategies, so beginning with lower intensities of 40 to 60% of 1 rep max and gradually increasing the intensity, whether that's volume or intensity of the sets. You should still use a moderate frequency of 3 to 4 sessions per week to stimulate recovery but also promote growth, and focus on compound heavy lifts for strength regrowth and smaller isolation movements for hypertrophy regrowth. And some recovery considerations are things like an adequate protein intake of around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight a day. This ensures amino acid availability for muscle repair and protein synthesis. You should prioritize 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep to improve recovery and regrowth, and you should allow 1 to 2 weeks for connective tissue to acclimate to the load to avoid injuries. And what's some programming implications of this? So consistent training history matters because a longer training history increases the amount of retained myonuclei, which provides a foundation for faster muscle regrowth and more long-term muscle potential. To maintain nuclei during breaks, light activity like bodyweight exercises or even low intensity resistance training can maintain muscle nuclei by minimizing muscle atrophy and preserving the myonuclear domain like we spoke about before, and focus on maintaining muscle mass by using minimal effective volume during training breaks. And then what's the optimal volume for when you're returning to training after your break? So begin with 50% of your previous working weights to avoid overtraining and allow your body to acclimate to the load you're using, and gradually increase to pre-break levels over 4 to 6 weeks, monitoring recovery markers such as soreness, energy and training performance. So what are some future implications of all of this research? So younger lifters possess higher satellite cell activation capacity, enabling robust adaptations and rapid hypertrophy. And for older lifters, muscle memory can offset age-related declines in muscle, but consistent training and nutrition are essential to maintaining myonuclei and muscle mass. Regular training increases the reserve of myonuclei, improving long-term hypertrophy adaptations and allowing lifters to rebuild strength even after long breaks. And retained myonuclei even has an impact on your injury recovery because they support muscle regrowth after immobilization or injuries, and incorporating light, low resistance movements during rehabilitation can prevent excessive muscle atrophy and preserve myonuclei whilst mitigating muscle loss. So obviously the most exciting part is all the hours you spent in the gym years ago aren't just memories. They've literally created lasting changes in your muscle fibers that make you more responsive to training today. It's like your muscles have a biological training regime that never expires. So let's recap what you should have learned in this video today. Muscle nuclei are retained for months or even years after training. Previous training experience gives you a permanent advantage. You can regain muscle faster than building it the first time, and training consistency matters more than we thought, but breaks aren't as devastating as once believed. So drop a comment if you've experienced muscle memory after a break, and how quick did your strength or muscle growth come back? If you like this video in particular, don't forget to smash the thumbs up button and subscribe for more evidence-based fitness advice. As always, thank you guys a lot for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.